Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Yuna, Hope of Spira. She's a 5 mana 3/5 and during your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control have Trample, Lifelink and Ward 2. This powerful static effect already shows where we are going with this deck as an enchantment beatdown deck. And furthermore, she has an end step triggered ability, because at the beginning of your end step, return up to one target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. In this Selesnya deck we need to ramp heavily simply because we play very powerful enchantments, which of course cost a lot of mana, but we also have a lot of powerful tools that will help us to ramp. For example, Composer of Spring, a 2 mana 1/3, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And there's also a replacement effect in this trigger, because if you control 6 or more enchantments, instead you may put a creature or land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Our first enchantment creature for today is Dryad of the Elysian Grove, a 3 mana 2/4, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Furthermore, lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Another enchantment creature that will give us a lot of mana is Sanctum Weaver, a 2 mana 0/4, and we can tap it to add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of enchantments you control. We can also discount our enchantment spells with Jukai Naturalist, a 2 mana 2/2 with lifelink, and enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Another enchantment creature that does exactly what we want in this deck is Overlord of the Hauntwoods, a 5 mana 6/5 with impending 4 for 3 mana. Furthermore, when it enters or attacks, create a tapped colorless land token named Everywhere that is every basic land type. And with Final Fantasy we got another enchantment creature that helps us a lot. Summon Fenrir, a 3 mana 3/2, and on the first chapter, search a library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. On the second chapter, when you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And on its third chapter, draw a card if you control the creature with the greatest power or tied for the greatest power. As we are playing a Selesnya enchantment deck, we also have a very powerful Cardadvantage package. For example, Enchantress Presence, a 3 mana enchantment, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. We also play Citizen Champion, a 3 mana 1/3, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on the champion and draw a card. Caring about cast triggers, we play Satyr Enchanter, a 3 mana 2/2, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Another powerful enchantment creature is Sithis Harvest Sand, a 2 mana 1/2, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Of course, we play Mesa Enchantress, a 3 mana 0/2, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you may draw a card. And of course, Argothian Enchantress, a 2 mana 0/1 with Shroud, and whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Once we have accelerated our mana base and also set up our card draw engine, we want to commit powerful creatures to the battlefield that will overrun our opponents with Yuna's static buff. For example, Archetype of Endurance, an 8 mana 6/5, and creatures you control have hexproof, and creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and can't have or gain hexproof. For the final overrun we play Nylea's Colossus, a 7 mana 6/6, and whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Always keep in mind that with Luna on the battlefield, all of those creatures have Trample, Lifelink and Ward 2, which negates the downside of them just being static bodies without any keywords, as Yuna adds everything that we need. We play Karametra, God of Harvests, a 5 mana 6/7 with Indestructible, and as long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7, Karametra isn't a creature. To ramp even more, whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search a library for a forest or plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. Another great keyword comes from Heliod, God of the Sun, a 4 mana 5/6 with Indestructible, and as long as your devotion to white is less than 5, Heliod isn't a creature. And then, other creatures you control have Vigilance. It can also create enchantment creatures, because for 4 mana you create a 2/1 White Cleric enchantment creature token. One of my favorite creatures in this deck is Soaring Lightbringer, a 5 mana 4/5 with flying, and other enchantment creatures you control have have flying. Furthermore, whenever you attack a player, create a 1/1 White Glimmer enchantment creature token that's tapped in attacking that player. Another really cool creature that finally shines in a deck is Nyctor's Paragon, a 6 mana 4/6, and whenever you gain life, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. All of these powerful creatures greatly synergize with Yuna, which also puts a huge target on her head, but as we are in Selesnya colors, we also play a huge protection package to make sure that she stays on the battlefield, which is why we play Dawn's Truce, a 2 mana instant, and you can gift a card to an opponent as the spell resolves. And then, you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until end of turn. We play Heroic Intervention, a 2 mana instant, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. A great single target protection spell is Defend the Rider, a 1 mana instant, choose 1. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, or you create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this token set its mounts and cruise vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Continuing with another great card from Final Fantasy is Restoration Magic, a 1 mana instant, and you choose 1 additional mode. For 0 additional mana, target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. For 1 additional mana, target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, and you gain 3 life. And for 4 additional mana, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, and you gain 6 life. A very flexible spell is Collective Resistance, a 2 mana instant with Escalate 1 green mana. You can choose 1 or more, and you can choose between destroy target artifact, enchantment, or target creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And last but not least, we also play Clever Concealment, a 4 mana instant with Convoke, so any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. You want to win more? You get it. We play Yuna, Red Tooth Regent, a 4 mana 4/4, and you can pay 2 mana and tap her to choose target enchantment you control that doesn't have the same name as another permanent you control. If the ability resolves, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. If the token is an aura, untap Yuna Red Tooth Regent and then scry 2. But you are limited to doing this only at sorcery speed. Our most expensive cards are, for example, Summon Knights of Round, an 8 mana 3/3 with indestructible, and on the first 4 chapters you create 3 2/2 White Knight creature tokens. On the 5th chapter you will receive your final overrun effect because other creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn, and you put an indestructible counter on each of them. Another really powerful summon is Summon Bahamut, a 9 mana 9/9 with flying, and on the first 2 chapters you destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. On the 3rd chapter you draw 2 cards, and on the 4th chapter you will win the game because this creature deals damage equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Yuna, Hope of Spira. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.